Yeah, were you wearing that outfit?
No.
Okay.
No,
I gotta ask.
No. That's reserved for ceremonial purposes, for rallies and stuff like that.
Okay, but I gotta ask, right? Come on.
Something I wear all the time.
I gotta ask.
That's
okay, you're not wearing it now, by the way. I just seen him off on video a few minutes ago. He's not wearing it. It's just very, very professionally. Now,
yeah, it's not something I wear all the time.
Gotcha. So you go in there and you're talking to the FBI. What are their questions like? Did they think you were like leadership? That you were leading this mob? That you were leading the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers?
Yeah, they were asking things like, "Are you a member of the Proud Boys? Right. Are you a member of the Oath Keepers?" No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You know, they were just probing and asking questions. I had the truth on my side. I just gave him the truth. I told him exactly what happened. Exactly how things went down for me personally on that day.
Well, then tell me, what did you admit to doing that day? Just the doors are open, you walked in.
Yeah, and then I told him that I was walking around with the police trying to help them clear people out. I told him that I told everybody to go home. I stopped people from breaking in the building, et cetera, et cetera.
Ultimately, what were the charges against you?
Oh, it was a couple misdemeanors like trespassing, parading on Capitol grounds, stuff like that. And then the two felonies were, one was basically like a rioting charge, and then the other one was obstruction of an official proceeding.
Okay. And then you turned yourself in?
Yeah, I called them. When I found out the FBI was looking for me, I called them and said, I heard you guys were looking for me. I heard you wanted information on me. Let's talk.
So the same day they questioned you, they arrested you? With no attorney?
No. I talked to them on the phone. I think I was on the 7th and the 8th, and we scheduled a meeting for January 9th, and that was when they arrested me. It was on January 9th.
And you turned yourself in, or they came and got you?
No, I turned myself in. I didn't realize at the time that I was, quote unquote, turning myself in.
Right.
I asked the guy that I was on the phone with, I was just, be honest with me, are you going to arrest me? You know, and he lied to me. He told me no. Which I told him at the time. I said, dude, just be real with me. I'll still turn myself in. Yeah. I'll still go to the questioning if you just tell me. I just want to know. That way I can,
feed your dog. Yeah, feed my dog. Put out the cat. That kind of stuff,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And in that sense, the guy was kind of a dick.
Yeah.
He should have told me. He should have said, yes, we're going to arrest you. Sorry, but we got to do our job. And I would have said, okay, cool. I'll show up. I'll see you in the morning.
Up until that point, do you think your biggest regret is not having an attorney and just keeping your mouth shut?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Because I have the truth on my side. I'm not trying to worm my way out of anything, and I think if anything, the attorney that I had during all of this process was a really bad one. I have a much better attorney now, but the attorney that I had during this whole process was, in my opinion, a terrible attorney.
How'd you find him?
He found me.
Oh, boy.
He contacted my mother and basically said he would do it all pro bono, that he'd been doing this for over 30 years as a federal defense attorney, blah, 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 blah. And, the rest is history.
And did he say that he was like shared your beliefs and shared your partisan?
Yeah. He said he believed in the Constitution, said he was a Trump supporter and all this other stuff, which I came to find out later from other people that wasn't the case, that he is donated to a bunch of Democrats, and, that he was basically all about, doing his, shtick on the media and in front of the camera. And, I think personally that he just used my recognition as an opportunity to himself.
Yeah, you were a poster child there, Now, were you able to raise any money? Did people come forward to help support you?
Yes and no. I mean, I've heard a lot of people have, made a lot more money than I ever got donated to me.
Yeah, hard to believe, right? You got something like Jenna Ellis raises like $100,000 overnight. You're the QAnon Shaman. You're like the big guy there,
Yeah. Well, I'm not, the best part about all this is that I'm not interested in profit. I'm interested in purpose. I chase purpose, not profit. So as long as the purpose can be fulfilled, and that is the freedom of humanity, the freedom of the United States of America, the saving of the 7th generation and the planet, well, then I've done my job and I'm a rich man.
Now, you go over there, you don't realize you're turning yourself in, but it turns out you're turning yourself in. How long are you in custody?
Oh, I was in custody for a total of 27 months. They did not allow me out. They said I was a dangerous society and a flight risk, which doesn't make any sense in my personal opinion because I didn't do anything violent on that day. And I called the FBI as soon as I found out they were looking for me, and I turned myself in. How is that a flight risk?
Yeah.
I have no criminal history. I just think what it was is that if they would have let the poster child that they chose to, exploit, if they would have let me go, then the media would have been up in arms. The government would have looked really weak and bad. I really don't know what the deal is. I have a lot of respect for Judge Lambert, the judge that was my judge, but that doesn't mean I agree with all the decisions that he made.
Yeah, just think if he would have showed up that day without the makeup, without the horns, it's another guy.
Well, man, I just do what God asked me to do.
Yeah. Now, what happens now? You go to trial, you plead guilty, what happens?
I took a plea deal. You see, the feds have a 98-something%.
I'm well aware of that, man. I'm well aware of
that. Yeah. And it's because they weigh on you with all the resources, the endless resources of the government. They lock people up. They keep them detained for up to 3 years. They make their lives miserable until they just plead guilty.
Yeah, 98% conviction rate. They threaten to arrest your family members, all kind of stuff. In fact, sometimes they do arrest your family members.
It's like communist China. It's like the Stasi.
Well,
it's like the KGB over in Soviet Union. At this point we're living in a fascist.
Well, yeah, it's not like it's the United States of America doing this. It's capitalism doing this. It's not like anything else. It's what's doing it.
But it's not capitalism. It's not capitalism because let's talk about the deep state really quick if we still have the time.
No, we have 15 minutes.
Okay, so check it out. The deep state can be described as tyranny. The founders of our nation divided our government into 3 separate branches: legislative, executive, and judicial, law creating, law enforcing, law adjudicating. And they separated these powers and they gave them checks and balances because our founders were dealing with tyranny, which they defined tyranny as the centralizing of all 3 of these branches of government into a centralized power that is under the crown, like what they were dealing with. The crown owned and controlled the law enforcement. The crown created law, and the crown also owned and controlled the courts. So that's tyranny. Now, the bureaucracy is largely what the deep state is. The bureaucracy has the ability to, quote unquote, regulate commerce. And through these, quote unquote, regulations, they are in one way or another able to create law because these laws say what we can buy, what we can sell, what is legal, what is illegal. Okay? Now, the bureaucratic agencies also have their own law enforcement agencies that enforce these regulations. So now we have law creating, legislative, we have law enforcing, executive, and these bureaucratic agencies also have their own administrative courts that are outside of the federal system. That's law adjudicating. That is tyranny. And there's over 500 federal agencies, bureaucratic agencies that are in charge of, quote unquote, regulating commerce. So now, the other aspect or apparatus to the deep state and to the bureaucracy is this. The corporations that the government bureaucratic agencies are supposed to be regulating are actually working with the bureaucratic agencies and are writing the regulations for the bureaucratic agencies so that the corporations can maintain their monopolies over our resources, over our labor, over our system and our economy. So the corporations and even the banking cartels are using these bureaucratic agencies, whether it be the Fed, whether it be the SEC, whether it be the FCC, whether it be the FDA, the NIH, the DEA, the FBI, you name it, CIA. What they're doing is they're using these bureaucratic agencies to use the government's monopoly on the initiation of force to reinforce their corporate or their banking monopolies over our resources, our labor, and our financial institutions. So these international corporations and these international banks are using our national government and our national bureaucratic agencies to enforce their will on the people. And this is fascism, because fascism is the illusion of a free market. It's the illusion of government regulations and the government regulating corporations. When in fact, what a fascism is it is corporate interests and government interests melding together to create essentially a dictatorship where the government and the entities are controlling the economy and enslaving the people. So this is the deep state. This is why I mentioned things like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, why I mention things like the World Economic Forum so often, why it is that I mention things like the UN, the WHO, the CDC, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, etc., the Fed, the Federal Reserve, because all of these things are different apparatuses. BlackRock, Vanguard, they are the different gears within this much larger, what JFK called a tightly knit, highly efficient machine. And there's people like Dr. Fauci at the highest levels of all of these bureaucratic agencies, these 500 bureaucratic agencies. There's somebody like Fauci at the tippy top of all of these pyramids that is controlling everything within these pyramids and moving it toward the New World Order, one world government that the globalists are what I call the less than 1%ers, because that's what they are. They're less than 1% of the population. These less than 1%ers are trying to create this New World Order, one world government where they control and own all the resources, labor, and financial systems around the planet.
But for profit, for capitalism.
But it's not capitalism. That's not capitalism. Capitalism is the best idea wins. Capitalism is the best invention wins. Capitalism is the free market. We're not living in a free market because things like a cure for cancer, things like Tesla Tower technology, things like zero-point energy engines, or even just engines that run off of water or hydrogen, all of these things have been suppressed. Alternative forms of medicine have been suppressed. Alternative forms of transportation have been suppressed.
Because they're making money.
But that's not capitalism.
Because they're profiting off of the energy system we have now. They're profiting off the profit-based.
But it's not capitalism.
Okay, you know what?
But that's not capitalism.
Let's have you come back.
The government is enforcing the will of the corporations. It's not capitalism.
Jake Angeli, let's have you come back. Let's have that whole discussion. I would love to have that with you.
I would love to.
I know. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. What is ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com?
ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com is a place where people can go and get a bunch of free information that breaks down the spiritual nature to reality and how that the institutions that we currently are using, socioeconomic and geopolitical systems, are based off of a distorted view of spiritual reality, of the objective reality. We talk about spirituality, we talk about sacred geometry, we talk about what I call the divine matrix, and we also talk about what I call the death matrix, which is this full spectrum dominance system that the less than 1%ers have used and have created so that they can play God with our lives. So, like, for example, we talk about psychological warfare, we talk about the deep state, we talk about history, we talk about, suppressed technologies like, Tesla Tower technology. We talk about Dr. Rife and his machine. We talk about the TR3B, the patents that Donald Trump just released in 2020, the TR3B, the zero-point energy engine, and the room temperature superconductor. These things were applied for by a guy named Salvador Pius. You can look these up online. I mean, they're public knowledge at this point. The patents are available to be checked out online. They are declassified. And there's over 5,000 to 6,000 patents that have been classified by the government. And this is why I'm saying that we don't live in a capitalism, we live in a fascism, because these patents aren't allowed to get to the public.
But everything on Forbidden Truth Academy is free?
Well, pretty much. All of the courses are free. Listening to the podcasts are free. You can also listen to all my interviews for free. And there is a portion of the page where you can request a consultation from me. And it is my suggestion that people digest all of the free content before they request a consultation. Then I can help them with their spirituality, with their spiritual path. I can help them to grow and ascend spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. But it would be a lot easier and a lot more effective for them if they would just watch all the free content before they request an hour's worth of my time during a consultation. And I do charge for the consultations.
Gotcha. And it's a very professional website, ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com. Now, you say you have a podcast. What day does the podcast come out? Like, is it scheduled, regularly scheduled?
The podcast it's on there. It's on there.
Yeah.
Currently, the podcast is on hold. There's some people that are involved with the podcast that are out of town. But we have over, I think it's like 8 or 9 episodes, maybe more than that, 10 episodes that are up on the website. You can just go and click on it. It'll take you to the Rumble page. Forbidden Truth Podcast is the name of the podcast, Forbidden Truth Podcast. You can find it on Forbidden Truth